Was the design of the C8 Z06 stolen from Ferrari? Ever wondered what a Ferrari engine would look like in a Chevy? Well, look no further than the C8 Z06. In this video, you'll find out exactly how Chevy managed to steal this design from Ferrari and what they did with it. Keep watching, because you'll never believe the kind of improvements Chevrolet added to this model after taking the engine off of Ferrari. The history behind the creation of the C8 Z06 is a messy one, with some looking down on the Chevy because of its origin story as a Ferrari engine, and others admiring the creativity that Chevrolet put into developing this car. At the end of this video, you'll know just what happened between the two brands, which will help you decide for yourself if the design of the C8 Z06 is daylight robbery or creative ingenuity. The engine is where it all began. The exterior of the C8 Z06 may be a Chevy design, but the engine remains a classic Ferrari creation. The engine of the C8 comes from the Ferrari 458, which was used to create the LT6 engine. With a horsepower of 670 and an engine capacity of 5.5 liters, this flat-plane crank engine is one of the best in the market, so it's no wonder Chevy engineers wanted to get their oily little hands on it. The specs of this production engine make it perfect for the supercar that is the C8 Z06. Being a flat-plane crank engine also makes this car more responsive and compact. To top it all off, the design of the engine makes it spin a lot faster. But that's just the surface of all the cool stuff that lies both beneath and outside the C8 Z06. The C8 has a sleek, wide-body design that adds to the overall vibe of the car. Its lightweight components allow it to glide across the track with a top speed of 189 miles per hour. The Chevy has a rear suspension design that is synonymous with the Corvette Stingray, but it hits 2,000 RPM higher than the Stingray. The rear wheels of the car are where most of its power is directed thanks to its balanced mid-engine design. The best part about this supercar is that it's super affordable, meaning you can rev with a Ferrari engine in an affordable Chevy design. The LT6 engine that powers the C8 is a force to be reckoned with on the track. It revs to 8,600 RPM and has twin 86mm single-bore throttle bodies. It also has an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission and over 100% in volumetric efficiency. It is arguably the most powerful 8-cylinder engine ever used in a production car. This naturally aspirated engine also has titanium connecting rods, and it produces more horsepower than an LT2 engine even though it's slightly heavier. The LT6 manages to produce 670 horsepower, a solid 170 more horsepower than the LT2, yet it only weighs 1 kilogram more than the LT2. The specs on this engine are so impressive that they provide a unique and out-of-this-world driving experience. Is the C8 Z06 an improvement? Well, the biggest argument around the C8 Z06 is whether the modifications made to the Ferrari engine and the car itself are an improvement to the original design or a downgrade. After examining the engine, there's no doubt that the modifications take the engine to a whole new level. Both the engine in the C8 Z06 and the Ferrari 458 have naturally aspirated flat-plane crank designs along with high revving features and mid-engine layouts. They also have dual-clutch automatic transmissions. The only difference is that the C8 is an 8-speed and the 458 is a 7-speed. Comparing the two engines closely will expose a few other differences that make the C8's modified engine superior. First off is the increased horsepower. While the engine of the Ferrari 458 produces 562 horsepower, the C8 produces 670. The C8 engine also has a larger engine capacity of 5.5 liters compared to the 4.5 liters of the 458. Finally, there is the increased foot-pounds of torque, with the C8 having 479 and the 458 having 398. Where the C8 doesn't trump the 458 is in redline. The Ferrari engine has a redline of 9,000 RPM, which is more than the Chevy's 8,500 RPM redline. How is the C8 Z06 different from other Z06s? After learning the origin story of the C8 Z06 LT6 engine, it's only natural to wonder what kind of advantages this engine gives the C8 when compared to other Z06s. What changes can be expected across the different Z06s and their varying engines? Most Z06s have a few features in common, such as added stopping power and improved handling. The design of the Z06s are also quite similar, with most of them having similar bodywork and the popular aero design. Going all the way back to the C5, which was one of the first Z06s, It was created in 1963, and it had set the tone for all the Z06s that came after it. The car itself was a beauty to behold, or at least it was in its time. Today, it would look like what it is, a really old sports car. But the design of the C5 wasn't its main attraction. The GM LS1 engine that sat under the hood of this car was what drew people in. This engine was a small block, V8, all-aluminum, lightweight, 345 horsepower producing masterpiece with an engine capacity of 5.7 liters. The power the LS1 produced, along with its unstoppable reliability, made it the engine to beat back then, and every Z06 since has been an incredible improvement. The C8 falls into the category of incredible improvements with its LT6 engine, an engine that was first designed in 2014. Years ago, GM engineers looked upon the Z06 engines and decided that they could be improved, and that's exactly what they did. They created the LT6 and designed it specifically for the C8 Z06 after taking the initial design off the Ferrari 458. When the engineers at GM first started development on the LT6 in 2014, they knew that they would need to produce something that could not only stand a chance in the ever-growing automotive industry, but also thrive. Their knowledge of this growth was why they decided to go mid-engine with the LT6, which expectedly created a few bumps on the track here and there, but also created new tracks that were covered with opportunities. One of these opportunities allowed GM to create the engine with overhead cams. In fact, the C8 Z06 had dual overhead cams. This veered away from the usual pushrod engine that was used in Corvettes. While both pushrod and overhead cam engines have their advantages and disadvantages, the pushrod engine trumps the overhead cam engine in terms of mechanical simplicity and improved center of gravity. The improved center of gravity of the engines in the early Z06s is why they are known for having great handling. Another benefit of pushrod engines is that they produce large torque. The design of the overhead cam engine features one or more camshafts placed in the cylinder on top of the combustion chamber. This design creates a need for more complex mechanical equipment and processes, which cancels out the mechanical simplicity used in pushrod engines, but also allows the overhead cam engine to spin at a higher RPM. Most pushrod engines can only spin up to about 6,500 RPM. Another way that an overhead cam engine is better than a pushrod engine is in terms of size and horsepower. Pushrod engines take up a lot of space under the hood, which makes it difficult for them to achieve the naturally aspirated horsepower that can be found in the LT6 overhead cam engine. The dual overhead cams in the LT6 also contribute to the engine output because it allows more air to move through it. The friction surfaces of the LT6 are coated in DLC, which is also known as diamond-like coating. This lowers the friction in the engine and increases durability. The LT6 doesn't have hydraulic filters because it utilizes a mechanical finger-style valve train. The LT6 may have started out as a Ferrari engine, but it's safe to say that the modifications made by GM turned it into something far more incredible. They created an engine that defied expectations and placed it in a car that has an incredible design. Still, the fact remains that Chevy stole this engine from Ferrari. So even with daylight robbery and creative ingenuity, how would you describe what Chevrolet did to the Ferrari engine?